Every day in America, fentanyl kills more people aged 18 to 49 than car crashes, cancer, or guns. Over 200 dead every single sunrise. This is no accident. The Sinaloa Cartel, once famous for cocaine and heroin, built a fentanyl empire after a single 2017 boardroom pivot, flooding the U.S. with mass-produced poison from clandestine Mexican superlabs, fueled by Chinese chemical supply chains and billion-dollar profit margins. The cartel's pivot turned addiction into a global business, transforming the overdose epidemic and rewriting the rules of America's war on drugs. The real story behind the cartel that flooded America with fentanyl has never been fully told. How did a single decision unleash a crisis that enforcement can barely contain? In 2017, inside a guarded compound in Sinaloa, the cartel's top brass gathered for a new kind of meeting. The old business, heroin, cocaine, was losing ground. American demand was shifting, and profits from plant-based drugs were shrinking. The Chapitos, El Chapo's sons, came armed with a different plan. Synthetic drugs, they argued, could be made year-round, rain or shine. No fields to burn, no poppies to harvest, no weather to fear. Just chemicals. Cheap, abundant, and almost invisible to law enforcement. Mayo Zambada, the cartel's veteran strategist, listened as the numbers were laid out. For $2,000 in precursor chemicals, a single superlab could press enough fentanyl pills to bring in $30 million on the streets north of the border. That kind of margin dwarfed anything the cartel had seen before. The decision was unanimous. Within weeks, meth lab technicians were retrained, pill presses arrived from China, and the first batches rolled off the line. Production scaled fast, some labs running day and night, each capable of churning out 1 million pills in a matter of days. The Chapitos managed risk like a board of directors. Diversify supply, maximize output, keep the operation mobile. El Mayo handled logistics, moving shipments and money through a maze of shell companies and trusted brokers. The Sinaloa Cartel was no longer just moving drugs. It was running an industrial enterprise, with every decision measured in lives and billions. The shift to synthetics would change the cartel's fortunes and America's fate forever. Fentanyl's journey to America starts far from the border. In industrial parks across China, factories churn out the chemicals that make mass production possible. These aren't finished drugs, just powders and liquids with names like NPP or 4-ANPP, known as precursors. They're legal on paper, but their real destination is hidden in shipping documents and false invoices. Anonymous brokers working from small offices in Wuhan or Shenzhen arrange the deals. They use encrypted chats, cryptocurrency payments, and a maze of shell companies to keep their names off the record. Shipments leave Chinese ports labeled as ink additives, dyes, or food flavorings. Some containers cross the Pacific directly to Mexico. Others take a detour through Panama or Singapore to throw off investigators. Customs paperwork is doctored, and the chemicals blend in with legitimate cargo. In 2025, U.S. authorities intercepted a single shipment in Houston. 300,000 kilograms of precursor chemicals, enough to manufacture fentanyl capable of killing every adult in the country. The paperwork traced back to 2 Chinese logistics firms, both dissolved days after the bust. Mexican front companies picked up the trail, moving the chemicals by truck to cartel-controlled warehouses. Every step is designed to hide the true purpose. The Sinaloa Cartel's entire fentanyl operation depends on this conveyor belt of chemicals, a global supply chain that adapts faster than law enforcement can react. Before a single pill is pressed or smuggled across the border, the real work begins in the shadows of the world's shipping lanes. Beneath the city of Nogales, a hidden artery connects Mexico to the United States. The Sinaloa Cartel's engineers carved out a tunnel stretching over 1,200 feet, 4 feet high, 3.5 feet wide, deep enough to slip under border fences and surveillance. Construction began in late summer 2024, using power drills, steel beams, and reinforced concrete to keep the passage stable. Ventilation pipes snake along the walls, feeding air to smugglers moving shipments night and day. Inside, a narrow-gauge rail system runs the length of the tunnel, with metal carts capable of hauling 400 pounds at a time. At peak, up to 2,000 pounds of fentanyl pills and powder pass through every week, with loads spiking to 3,000 pounds during holiday weekends. The entry sits beneath a locked storeroom in a Nogales warehouse, hidden behind stacks of legitimate goods. On the U.S. side, the exit opens into a fenced commercial lot, covered by a concrete panel and secured with a digital lock. Both ends are fortified with steel doors and monitored by cartel spotters, watching for gaps in patrols. The tunnel operated for nearly 6 months before federal agents discovered it in February 2025. By then, it had moved enough product to supply entire regions, all without a single border checkpoint or customs inspection. For the cartel, this was industrial-scale smuggling, an underground highway built for profit, speed, and silence. Operation Last Mile swept across the country with a single goal: break the Sinaloa Cartel's grip on fentanyl distribution. Federal agents raided homes, stash houses, and pill mills in all 50 states. Over 3,300 arrests followed, each one tied to cartel-backed supply lines. In May 2024, prosecutors unsealed 28 federal indictments against cartel members, charging them with narco-terrorism and trafficking on an industrial scale. The legal offensive didn't stop at street-level dealers. Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the cartel's legendary boss, was captured in late 2024 after decades on the run. By September 2025, El Mayo stood in a U.S. courtroom, pleading guilty to leading a foreign terrorist organization and admitting to years of fentanyl shipments. His plea deal included a minimum 35-year sentence and the forfeiture of millions in cartel assets. Ovidio Guzman, one of the Chapitos, faced extradition and a stack of charges. The crackdown sent shockwaves through the cartel's ranks, forcing lieutenants underground and freezing dozens of bank accounts. For the first time, the full weight of American law was bearing down on Sinaloa's empire. Pressure at the border is reaching a breaking point. In early 2025, President Trump threatened sweeping tariffs on all Mexican imports, demanding immediate action against cartel smuggling. The threat landed hard in Mexico City. President Claudia Sheinbaum, facing both U.S. demands and unrest at home, ordered 10,000 troops to the northern frontier. Soldiers in full combat gear now patrol highways, checkpoints, and dusty back roads from Tijuana to Matamoros. Military convoys roll past citrus groves and factory towns, their presence impossible to ignore. For Sheinbaum, the challenge is balancing American pressure with growing resentment from Mexican citizens, many of whom see the troop surge as an unwanted occupation. Behind closed doors, diplomats spar over joint patrols and intelligence sharing. On the ground, the show of force is real. Armored vehicles, drone surveillance, and roadblocks choke off entire neighborhoods. But for every new checkpoint, traffickers find another weak spot. The border has become a high-stakes chessboard, with every move watched by both governments and the cartel's own scouts. Inside the Nogales tunnel, steel rails glint under weak electric lights. The air is thick and stale, pushed along by a jerry-rigged fan system. Cartel engineers built the passage to move thousands of pounds of fentanyl, fast, quiet, and out of sight. In February 2025, federal agents stormed both ends, seizing over 3,200 pounds of fentanyl and shutting down the 1,200-foot artery. But every discovery like this is just one battle in a longer war. On the same day, a coroner in Ohio signed off on another overdose report. The victim, a mother from a small Midwestern town, found unresponsive by her teenage son. She had taken a single blue pill, pressed with the same markings as a prescription painkiller. Lab tests confirmed fentanyl, traced back to a Sinaloa batch. In America, fentanyl now kills more people aged 18 to 49 than car wrecks or guns. Behind every tunnel, every shipment, are lives cut short and families left with questions no raid can answer. As of 2025, fentanyl remains the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49, with over 200 lives lost every day. This documentary has shown, through court records and seizure reports, how the Sinaloa Cartel engineered an industrial-scale operation, using Chinese chemical imports, Mexican superlabs, and sophisticated tunnels, to flood the U.S. with synthetic opioids. Despite Operation Last Mile's 3,337 arrests and the indictment of 28 cartel leaders, including Ovidio Guzman and El Mayo Zambada, DEA documents confirm that trafficking routes persist. The full extent of cartel finances and the identities of some Chinese suppliers remain classified. What is clear from overdose statistics and border surveillance footage is that enforcement, while unprecedented, has not stopped the flow. The evidence demonstrates a system able to adapt faster than authorities can respond. The fentanyl crisis, shaped by these facts, continues to claim lives on both sides of the border, and the documents show the fight is far from over.